Hey everyone, I never thought I'd be posting here, but I need to get this off my chest. I don't even know where to start, so I guess I'll just lay it out. I'm Rick, 55, retired Army colonel. Spent over 3 decades in service, most of it overseas. My wife, Marcy, 52, held down the home front. We've been married 30 years, and let's just say military life is no fairy tale for relationships. You're gone for months, sometimes years. A lot of guys in my position come home to a stranger. Some come home to a wife who's been keeping the bed warm with someone else. I always had my suspicions about Marcy, especially back when I was in Korea. I even hired a PI. The guy got some weird photos, her meeting up with some man a few times, but nothing conclusive. She had an explanation for everything. I wanted to believe her. Maybe I was just paranoid. Maybe I needed to believe her. So I buried it. Moved on. Fast forward to now. I'm retired, trying to adjust to civilian life. We go to this house party last Saturday, nothing fancy, just some old family friends, a few new faces. That's when I see her talking to this younger couple, Vincent and Leslie. Something about their interaction makes my gut twist. Marcy's laughing, too much, too hard. She keeps touching Vincent's arm when she talks. She leans in just a little too close. And then there's the look on her face when she thinks no one's watching, like she's sharing some secret. That same damn look I remember from those PI photos years ago. I try to shake it off. Maybe I'm being paranoid again. Maybe it's nothing. Then, as I'm getting another drink, I overhear Leslie talking to one of the other wives. Oh yeah, Vincent and Marcy have been friends for a while. She's been helping him with something. She's been such a lifesaver for him. Helping him? With what? Marcy never mentioned this guy before. I turn to ask her, but suddenly, she's not in the room anymore. I walk around the house, try to play it cool, but my mind is spinning. I step out back, and that's when I see them. Marcy and Vincent standing close. Too close. She's gripping his wrist, whispering something, and then he looks around, like he's making sure no one is watching, before he puts his hand on her waist for just a second. A second too long. I step forward, and Marcy immediately lets go, her face going pale. Oh, hey honey, she says, her voice too casual. I was just stepping out for some fresh air. Vincent clears his throat, shifts awkwardly. Yeah, we were just talking about, real estate stuff. Marcy was giving me advice. I just stare at them. Neither of them can meet my eyes. And that's when I know. This isn't paranoia. This isn't nothing. This is something. And I'm going to find out exactly what it is. I didn't say anything right away. I just nodded, acted like I believed their little story. But inside, my blood was boiling. Real estate advice? Marcy doesn't know a damn thing about real estate. I've handled every house we've ever lived in. She barely even looks at the contracts before signing. And Vincent? He was nervous, too nervous for someone having an innocent conversation. So I let it go for the moment. We got home late that night. Marcy was acting normal, but I could tell she was watching me, waiting for me to say something. I didn't. Just brushed my teeth, got into bed, and turned off the light. I could feel her shifting next to me, like she wanted to bring it up, but was scared to. Good. The next morning, I started digging. First, I checked her phone when she was in the shower. Locked. She never used to keep it locked. I knew the password a year ago, but now it was different. Interesting. Then, I checked our phone bill online. I might not be in the military anymore, but old habits die hard. The logs showed multiple calls and texts between Marcy and a number I didn't recognize. Some days, they were talking for over an hour. Guess whose number it was? Vincent. I still didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed more. So I went for a drive. Found Vincent's office. It's a small real estate agency downtown. I parked across the street and waited. A little after noon, I saw her. Marcy. Walking right through his office door. She never mentioned seeing him outside of that party. Never said a word about helping him. And I'll tell you something else. She wasn't dressed like a woman running errands. She was wearing that red blouse, the one she only pulls out for date nights. Hair done. Makeup perfect. She was in there for 45 minutes. When she came out, she was smiling. Texting someone. I gripped the steering wheel, so hard my knuckles went white. This wasn't just a gut feeling anymore. This was real. And I was going to catch her in the act. I didn't go home right away. I needed a plan. If there's one thing the Army taught me, it's that you don't go into battle without knowing exactly what you're walking into. So, I started thinking like an intelligence officer again. First thing I did was call an old buddy, Frank. He used to work military intelligence before retiring into private investigations. If anyone knew how to get answers, it was him. Rick, he said when he picked up. Didn't think I'd hear from you. Civilian life getting boring already. I let out a dry chuckle. Not exactly. I need a favor. I gave him the rundown. Marcy, Vincent, the sketchy phone calls, the meeting at his office. Frank listened quietly, then sighed. You want me to dig? I need proof, I said. I don't want to blow up my marriage over paranoia. But I also don't want to be the idiot who ignores the signs. He agreed to look into it. He'd track their locations, check social media activity, maybe even snap a few photos if things looked suspicious. It felt dirty, spying on my own wife, but I wasn't about to be played for a fool. Now I just had to act normal. That night, Marcy was extra sweet. She made my favorite dinner, pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans. She kept touching my arm, laughing at my jokes a little too much. It was forced. I could feel it. After dinner, I casually asked, So what did you do today? She didn't even blink. Oh, just ran some errands. Grocery store, dry cleaning. Nothing exciting. Nothing exciting? Not even a mention of seeing Vincent? I sipped my beer, nodding like I believed her. The next morning, Frank called me. You were right to be suspicious, he said. Your wife and Vincent have been meeting up regularly for at least 2 months. And Rick, it's not just at his office. My stomach dropped. Where else? Restaurants. Parks. And last week, he hesitated. She was at his house. I gripped the phone tighter. For how long? 2 hours. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. That was all I needed to hear. I wasn't going to sit around waiting for more evidence. I was going to set a trap. I wasn't about to confront her yet. No, I wanted her to think everything was normal. Keep her comfortable, keep her lying. People slip up when they feel safe. So I played the role of the trusting husband. Over the next few days, I acted like nothing was wrong. I joked with her, brought home her favorite coffee, even suggested we go out for dinner. She smiled, laughed, played the doting wife. But I could see it now, the forced cheerfulness, the fake affection. And then, right on cue, she gave me exactly what I needed. Thursday night, she casually mentioned, Oh, by the way, I might be out for a few hours tomorrow afternoon. Leslie invited me out for lunch and some shopping. Leslie? Vincent's wife. I forced a nod. Sounds nice. Where are you going? She shrugged. Not sure yet. Just wherever. Yeah, wherever. I waited until she was asleep, then I called Frank. Follow her tomorrow, I told him. I want to know exactly where she goes. The next day, I acted completely normal. Kissed her on the cheek before she left, told her to have fun. Then I waited. 2 hours passed. Then 3. Finally my phone rang. Frank. She's at Vincent's house, he said. She got there 20 minutes ago. I felt my pulse hammering in my ears. This was it. I got in my truck and drove. My hands were steady on the wheel, my mind clear. This wasn't some baseless suspicion anymore. This was happening. I pulled up a block away from Vincent's house. Frank was in his car across the street. He rolled down his window when he saw me. She's still inside, he said. Want me to go around back? I shook my head. No need. I wasn't sneaking. I wasn't waiting. I was walking straight to the front door. I walked up to Vincent's house with a calm I didn't even recognize in myself. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't second-guessing. I was done playing the fool. I rang the doorbell. Silence. Then footsteps. The door cracked open, and there she was, Marcy. Her eyes widened like a deer in headlights. She didn't expect to see me. That alone told me everything. Rick. Her voice was too high, too surprised. What are you doing here? I tilted my head. I should be asking you that. Thought you were out shopping with Leslie. She blinked, opening her mouth like she was about to lie again, but before she could speak, a voice called from inside. Who is it, babe? Babe. Vincent. Marcy's face turned white. I pushed the door open before she could stop me. And there he was, Vincent, standing in the living room, barefoot, wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants, like he just got comfortable. A half-empty wine glass sat on the coffee table. A second glass, with lipstick on the rim, was next to it. My eyes flicked back to Marcy. You want to explain this? She stammered. I just came over to talk. Vincent needed some advice. I let out a sharp laugh. Oh yeah? Real estate advice? Or were you giving him the kind of help you never gave me? Vincent stepped forward, hands up. Hey man, calm down. You're getting the wrong idea. The wrong idea. I repeated. My voice was quiet, but the rage in my chest felt like a grenade with the pin already pulled. So tell me, Vincent, why are you calling my wife babe? He flinched. Marcy turned toward him, panic in her eyes. You what? This idiot. He slipped up. I took another step inside. How long has this been going on? Marcy shook her head frantically. Rick, no, it's not. Don't. My voice was ice. Don't stand there and lie to my face. You weren't shopping. You weren't meeting Leslie. You were here. Drinking wine. With him. I turned to Vincent. So tell me, Vincent, what else were you doing? He swallowed, glancing at Marcy, but she had nothing to give him, no excuse, no escape. Then I noticed something. A jacket draped over the back of the couch. Marcy's jacket. But right next to it, a damn bathrobe. My stomach turned. I clenched my jaw, so hard I thought my teeth might crack. I see, I muttered. I get the picture. Marcy's eyes filled with tears. Rick, please. Let's just go home and talk. But I was already stepping back. Already done listening to her lies. Don't bother coming home, I said, voice flat. We're done. And with that, I turned and walked out the door. Behind me, I heard her break down into sobs. But I didn't care anymore. I drove home in silence. No music, no thoughts, just the steady hum of the engine and the tightening in my chest. Marcy didn't even try to follow me. Maybe she knew there was nothing she could say to fix this. Maybe she stayed with Vincent. Either way, I didn't care. When I walked through the door, our house felt different. Colder. I stood in the hallway for a second, staring at the family pictures on the wall. Wedding photos. Vacations. Moments that, until today, I thought meant something. What a joke. I grabbed a suitcase from the closet and started throwing her clothes into it. Not neatly. Not carefully. Just shoving things in. Halfway through, my phone buzzed. Marcy, Rick, please let me explain. I ignored it. Then another. Marcy, I swear it wasn't what you think. Just talk to me. I kept packing. Then a call. I let it ring. A minute later, another text. Marcy, I'm coming home. Please don't do anything drastic. Oh, now she was in a hurry. I sat down waiting. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was just tired. 15 minutes later, I heard the garage door open. She walked in looking a mess, makeup smeared, hair wild, hands shaking. The second she saw the packed suitcase by the door, she froze. Her bottom lip trembled. You're kicking me out. I stood up, crossing my arms. Where'd you expect to sleep tonight? Our bed. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Rick, please. I messed up, okay? But I love you. I don't want to lose you. I laughed. A bitter, hollow sound. You don't want to lose me? Should have thought about that before you started sneaking around. She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. I didn't sleep with him, she blurted out. I swear. We were just talking, drinking. Cut the crap, Marcy, I snapped. I saw the bathrobe. I saw your face when I showed up. You were guilty as hell. I panicked, she sobbed. But it wasn't like that. I promise. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. I don't believe a word that comes out of your mouth anymore. She swallowed hard, glancing at the suitcase. Where am I supposed to go? I shrugged. Not my problem. She blinked. Rick, after 30 years together, you're just throwing me out. You threw us away the second you decided to sneak around with him. She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. She knew she had no defense. Finally, she grabbed the suitcase and walked toward the door. But before she stepped out, she turned back, eyes red and desperate. Rick, please don't make this a mistake we can't fix. I stared at her. Then, without another word, I shut the door in her face. The second I locked the door, I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. My hands were shaking, not with fear, not even with rage, but with the weight of it all finally crashing down. 30 years. 3 damn decades. And this is how it ended. I stood there for a while just listening. Nothing. No knocks, no more pleading. She was gone. Then my phone buzzed again. Marcy, I know you're angry. But please, let's talk when you're ready. I love you, Rick. I never stopped. I turned the phone over on the table. I wasn't answering her. Not now. Not ever. It didn't take long before the news started spreading. First, it was Frank. He called the next morning, his voice careful. So how'd it go? She's out. A pause. Then a slow exhale. Damn. I'm sorry, man. I wasn't in the mood for pity. You did me a favor. I'd rather know the truth than keep living in a lie. He didn't argue. You need anything? Nah. I'll keep an eye on her just in case. Appreciate it. I hung up. And that's when the text started rolling in. Not from Marcy. From Leslie, Vincent's wife. Leslie, Rick. I need to talk to you. Call me. I ignored it. But a few minutes later. Leslie, it's important. Please. I sighed and called her back. What is it? She sounded out of breath, like she'd been crying. I just found out. I frowned. Found out what? A shaky inhale. About them. About Marcy and Vincent. I stayed silent, waiting. I had a feeling, she admitted, voice breaking. I mean, Marcy was always around, always texting him. But I didn't want to believe it. Then last night, he came home late, and I confronted him. He tried to deny it at first, but when I pushed. She choked on a sob. He admitted it, she whispered. They've been having an affair for months. I closed my eyes, my grip on the phone tightening. Affair. There it was. No more vague suspicions. No more half-truths. It was real. I should have felt vindicated. But all I felt was cold. Leslie kept talking. He said it started innocently. Just talking. Then lunch dates. Then, she let out a bitter laugh. Then hotel rooms. Hotel rooms. I sat down, rubbing my forehead. I felt like an idiot. A blind fool. Rick, Leslie said softly. I don't know what you're feeling right now, but I'm wrecked. I don't even know what to do next. I let out a breath. You kick him out. You divorce him. You move on. Silence. Then a broken just like that. Just like that. Because there was no fixing this. Not for me. Not for her. We were both married to liars. And now we were both done. After I hung up with Leslie, I just sat there, staring at the wall. I thought knowing the truth would bring some kind of relief. At least I wouldn't be stuck wondering anymore. But instead, I just felt hollow. She really did it. She didn't just lie. She didn't just sneak around. She took it all the way. Hotel rooms. I clenched my jaw so hard it ached. Then, as if the universe wasn't done kicking me, my phone buzzed again. Marcy. I let it ring. I wasn't interested in hearing more of her lies. But then a text came through. Marcy, I know you don't want to talk to me, but please don't listen to Leslie. She's making things worse than they are. Can we meet? Just once. Oh, now she wanted to explain? Now that she knew I had heard the full truth? I almost blocked her. Almost. But then I thought about it. If she was still lying, if she was still trying to cover up her mess, maybe I should hear her out. Not because I wanted to believe her, but because I wanted to watch her dig her own grave. So I texted back. Me, fine. One conversation. That's it. She responded immediately. Marcy, thank you. Please, can we meet at home? Home. The word made my stomach turn. She still thought of our house as hers. Me, no. Neutral ground. Coffee shop. 2 p.m. She hesitated, then agreed. I showed up 5 minutes early. Marcy was already there, sitting at a corner table, looking like hell. Puffy eyes, pale face. She had a coffee in front of her, but it looked untouched. I sat down, arms crossed. Talk. She swallowed hard. Rick, I know you hate me right now, but... I cut her off. No, Marcy. I don't hate you. That would mean I still care enough to feel anything. Right now, I just want to know why. She flinched but nodded. Then, she started spinning her little tale. It wasn't like that, she whispered. I swear. It started as just talking. I was lonely. You were always busy, always distracted with retirement and your routine. Vincent just listened. I let out a humorless chuckle. And then what? Your clothes just fell off one day. Tears welled up in her eyes. It wasn't about sex, Rick. I leaned in, voice low. Then explained the hotel rooms. Her breath hitched. That was it. The moment she realized she couldn't talk her way out of this. She looked down at her hands. I made a mistake. I laughed. A real bitter laugh. A mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk at the grocery store. You had an affair, Marcy. For months. She shook her head. I never stopped loving you. I just stared at her. She really thought that meant something? Then why'd you do it? I asked, genuinely curious. She took a deep breath. I was scared, Rick. Scared of what our life was becoming. You retired, and suddenly we were together all the time, but felt like we were strangers. Vincent, he made me feel wanted. Like I mattered. I leaned back. So I didn't make you feel wanted? Her face crumpled. Not like before. There it was. She wanted the excitement, the thrill of sneaking around. And now that it was all crumbling, she wanted me to pick up the pieces. I stood up. We're done, Marcy. Nothing you say will change that. She grabbed my hand. Please, Rick, don't throw everything away over this. I pulled away. You already did. Then I walked out, leaving her sitting there, crying into a cup of cold coffee. I felt nothing. Not anger. Not sadness. Just freedom. I walked out of that coffee shop feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Maybe even years. Marcy had nothing left to say that could fix this. No more lies, no more excuses. It was over. Now, it was time to clean up the mess. The first thing I did when I got home was secure everything. Marcy might have been my wife for 30 years, but after what she pulled, I wasn't about to leave myself exposed. Changed the locks. Froze our joint bank account. Took her off every credit card I could. Called a lawyer. The lawyer, some sharp guy named Dan, listened to my story, then sighed like he'd heard it 100 times before. Well, Rick, he said, she screwed up, but you need to be smart about this. Do you want to go scorched earth or keep things clean? I thought about it for half a second. Scorched earth. Dan chuckled. I figured, but let's do this the right way. If she tries to fight for anything, we'll be ready. Good. Next, I started making calls. Friends. Family. If Marcy thought she was going to control the narrative, she was dead wrong. First up, her sister Karen. Karen was always the sensible one. The kind of woman who wouldn't defend stupidity. When I told her what happened, she went quiet for a long time. Then she whispered, "Oh my God. Rick, I am so sorry." She tell you anything? I asked. Karen exhaled sharply. No. But now that I think about it, she was acting weird lately. Talking about how you two were going through something, but never explaining what. Guess I know why now. I'm divorcing her, I said simply. Karen didn't hesitate. I don't blame you. One by one, I told everyone who needed to know. My best friend, my brother, even my old army buddies. Every single one of them was on my side. Except one. Our son, Eric. Eric is 28. Lives in another state, busy with his own life. But when I called him and told him the truth, he didn't react like I expected. Dad, he said, are you sure you can't work through this? I felt my stomach drop. You're kidding me. I just mean, he sighed. I know Mom messed up, but you've been together forever. Maybe. No, I cut him off. Not maybe. She destroyed this. You don't come back from that. Eric went quiet. I just don't want to see the family fall apart. I took a deep breath. Eric, I love you. But you don't understand. She chose another man over me. For months. Lied to my face over and over. If you want to keep a relationship with her, that's your choice. But I'm done. Another pause. Then, finally, I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. I hung up, feeling drained. Then, the final bomb dropped. That night, Leslie called me again. I thought you should know, she said, her voice shaking. Marcy is at Vincent's place right now. I closed my eyes. Of course she was. They deserve each other, I muttered. Leslie sniffled. I don't know what to do. I feel so stupid. You're not stupid, I said. They are. She let out a hollow laugh. You know what the worst part is? He told me he's not sure if he wants to be with her. That this was all just, I don't know, a mistake. A fling? I don't even know if he actually wants her now that everything's out in the open. That actually made me laugh. So she blew up our marriage for nothing. I said. Leslie's voice was cold. Looks like it. And somehow, that made everything feel even more pathetic. Marcy gambled, and she lost. And now, I was done feeling anything about it. The next morning, I woke up to 7 missed calls from Marcy. Guess Vincent wasn't the knight in shining armor she thought he'd be. I ignored them. Then came the texts. Marcy, Rick, please talk to me. I need to explain. Marcy, I made a huge mistake. I don't even know what I was thinking. Marcy, Vincent isn't who I thought he was. I smirked at that one. No kidding. Then one final message. Marcy, I don't have anywhere to go. Please, can we just talk? Ah, there it was. She wasn't sorry. She was stranded. Vincent must have kicked her to the curb the second things got real. I texted back. Me, not my problem. She called immediately. I let it ring. Then a voicemail. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the best of me. I pressed play. Rick, please, she sobbed. I don't know what to do. I thought Vincent cared about me, but he said it was just fun. Just a distraction. He told me he never planned to leave Leslie. That I was the one who took it too seriously. I shook my head. Unbelievable. She sniffled. I was stupid, okay? I let my emotions get the best of me. I don't know what I thought, but I know I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose us. I paused the voicemail, stared at the phone. So now, after blowing up our marriage, she suddenly wanted us again? I played the rest. I know I can't undo what I did, she said, voice shaky. But please, can we at least try to work through this? 30 years, Rick. We can't just throw that away. I exhaled slowly. She still didn't get it. She threw it away. The second she chose Vincent. The second she lied. The second she snuck around behind my back like some teenager who got caught sneaking out. There was no fixing this. I deleted the voicemail. Then, for good measure, I blocked her number. That night, Leslie called me again. Marcy's blowing up my phone, she said, sounding exhausted. Apparently, Vincent told her she was too much drama and that she should work things out with her husband. I barked out a laugh. So he cheated with her for months, then tossed her like trash when it got complicated? Yep. Leslie's voice was cold. And now she's desperate. She was crying about how she lost everything. I shook my head. Good. Leslie let out a bitter chuckle. You know what's funny? Vincent's trying to act like he's the victim now. Like Marcy pressured him into things, and he just got caught up in it. I rolled my eyes. Typical coward. Leslie hesitated. Rick, I know we barely know each other, but if you ever want to grab a drink or just vent, I'm here. I raised an eyebrow. Was that flirting? Maybe. But honestly, I wasn't interested. I wasn't ready. Not yet. I appreciate it, I said. But right now, I just want to move on. She seemed to understand. Yeah, me too. After I hung up, I sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. Marcy had lost everything. Her husband, her home, even her affair partner. And me? I was finally free. A week passed. A whole week of silence. No Marcy, no Vincent, nothing. It was like the storm had finally passed. Then, on Friday afternoon, I pulled into my driveway and saw her. Marcy, sitting on the front steps, arms wrapped around herself. She looked awful. Puffy eyes, messy hair, the same clothes she probably left Vincent's in. She stood up when she saw me. Rick, she breathed, like she had just found water in the desert. I didn't say anything. Just walked past her, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. Before I could close it, she shoved her foot in the way. Please, she begged. Just 5 minutes. I clenched my jaw. Move your foot, Marcy. Her lip trembled. I have nowhere to go. I sighed, rubbing my temples. That's not my problem. I moved in with Karen, she blurted. But she kicked me out when she found out everything. She said she was disgusted with me. And Eric, he won't even answer my calls. I paused. Eric isn't speaking to you? Tears filled her eyes. He said he needed time. But I know what that means. She wiped her face. I lost my family, Rick. Please, I don't have anywhere else. I stared at her. The old me, the man who spent 3 decades taking care of this woman, felt a flicker of sympathy. But that man was gone. You should have thought about that before you crawled into another man's bed, I said coldly. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I pressed forward. You didn't think about me when you were sneaking around. You didn't think about Eric when you were lying to both of us. And now that you've got nowhere to run, you come crawling back? Why? Because Vincent tossed you aside. Marcy shook her head violently. No, that's not it. I swear I was. Stop, I cut her off. I don't care. She broke. Tears poured down her face as she clutched her chest like she was in physical pain. Rick, please. I can't undo what I did, but I love you. I never stopped loving you. I took a slow breath, then met her eyes. I did. Her face crumpled. No, you don't mean that. I do. She shook her head, whispering, you can't just erase 30 years. I stepped back. You already did. For a moment, I thought she might collapse. Her whole body shook as she let out a strangled sob. Then slowly she backed away. I'll go, she whispered. But if you ever change your mind. I didn't let her finish. I closed the door, locked it, and just like that, she was gone. I stood there for a long time, listening to the silence. Then, for the first time in weeks, I smiled. Because I knew one thing for sure. I was never looking back. After Marcy left my doorstep, I expected a wave of emotions, anger, regret, maybe even sadness. But all I felt was relief. No more begging. No more excuses. No more pretending. Now I could finally move on. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Dan, I said, push the divorce through as fast as possible. I want this done. He chuckled. Now, that's what I like to hear. I wasn't playing games. I didn't want mediation, didn't want to work things out. I told Dan to offer her nothing. No house, no money, no favors. If she wanted to fight for anything, she'd have to drag me to court. Something told me she wouldn't. And I was right. That evening, I got an email from Dan. Marcy agreed to the divorce. No contest. I stared at the screen for a long time. Just like that, 30 years were legally over. Then came the last step, Eric. I hadn't heard from my son since our first conversation. I figured he needed space, but now that the divorce was moving, I wanted to check in. I called him. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey, Dad." His voice was hesitant, like he didn't know what to say. "Hey, kid," I said. "Just wanted to let you know, it's official. Your mom and I are getting divorced." A long pause. Then a sigh. "Yeah, I figured." I waited. "How do you feel about that?" Another pause. Then finally, "I'm angry," he admitted. "Not at you. At her. At what she did." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "I get it. I didn't want to believe she could do that. You and Mom were always solid, you know? And now it's like everything I thought was real wasn't." That hit me hard, because I felt the same way. "She lied to both of us," I said quietly. "Not just me." Eric exhaled. "Yeah." Then, after a beat, "I don't know if I even want to talk to her." I didn't tell him what to do. He had to decide that for himself. "Take your time," I said. "Just don't let her manipulate you." "I won't." His voice was firmer now. "I love her, she's my mom, but I don't trust her. And I don't know if I ever will again." I understood that better than anyone. After I hung up, I realized something. I had no loose ends left. Marcy was gone. The divorce was in motion. Eric knew the truth. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. And damn, it felt good. With the divorce moving fast and my life finally settling, I thought I was done with Marcy. I should have known better. A few days later, I got an email from her. Subject: one last chance. I almost deleted it without reading. Almost. But curiosity got the best of me. I clicked. "Rick, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but please, just read this. I've been thinking a lot about everything I did. I know I destroyed our marriage. I know I hurt you more than I could ever fix. But Rick, I swear I never meant to. I let my emotions take over. I was selfish, and I see that now. But I also know what we had was real. 30 years, Rick. That has to mean something. I don't want a divorce. I want my husband back. I want us back. If there's even the smallest chance you can forgive me, just say the word. I'll do whatever it takes. Therapy, counseling, anything. Just don't throw this away. Please. Marcy." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then, without a second thought, I deleted the email. No response. No second chances. No working through betrayal. She wanted to save our marriage? Too late. She killed it the second she crawled into another man's bed. She didn't miss me. She missed the life I gave her. The security, the stability. Well, that life was over. That evening, I got another text from Leslie. "Leslie, guess who just showed up at my house?" I already knew the answer. "Me, Marcy?" "Leslie, bingo. She wanted to talk." I smirked. Of course she did. Me, what did she want? Leslie, apparently, she thought we could help each other through this. I laughed out loud. Me, so she burned every bridge, and now she's clinging to you? Leslie, pretty much. I told her to leave. I'm done with this mess. Good. Looked like Marcy was running out of people to manipulate. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't have to deal with her anymore. I was finally completely free. Days passed. Then a week. Then 2. Marcy had completely disappeared from my life. No texts. No emails. No surprise visits. It was exactly what I wanted. Then out of nowhere Eric called. "Dad," he said, voice uneasy. "Mom just showed up at my apartment." I clenched my jaw. What did she want? She was crying, saying she lost everything, that she has no one left. He hesitated. She asked if she could stay with me. I exhaled slowly. "And what did you say?" I told her no. Good. Eric sighed. She kept saying she made a mistake and that she didn't think Vincent would throw her away like that. I chuckled bitterly. So she regrets him screwing her over, not what she did to me. Exactly. I heard Eric shift uncomfortably. She wanted me to talk to you. Said maybe you'd change your mind if I asked. I let out a humorless laugh. Eric, do I seem like a man who's changing his mind? He sighed. No. I told her that, but she's desperate. Then she should have thought about that before she blew up our family. Silence. Then, softly, I think I finally get it, Dad. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. It took me a while to get it, too. What should I do? Eric asked. I wasn't going to tell my son to cut off his own mother. That was his choice. But I would tell him the truth. Eric, she's not looking for forgiveness. She's looking for a safety net. And now that I'm gone, she's hoping you'll catch her instead. Another pause. Then a deep breath. Yeah, that's what it feels like. We talked a little longer, then hung up. And for the first time, I realized something. Marcy was truly, completely alone. She threw away her marriage, her home, and even her son's respect. And now, she had nothing. All for a man who never wanted her in the first place. I should have felt bad, but I didn't, because she did this to herself. And I was finally at peace. A month passed. No Marcy. No drama. Just peace. The divorce was moving fast. Dan told me we'd be signing the final papers soon. After 30 years, it would all be official. And honestly, I was ready. I spent my days fixing up the house, going to the gym, catching up with old army buddies. For the first time in years, I was actually living for me. Then one evening Leslie called. You're not going to believe this, she said. Oh, I think I will, I chuckled. She let out a bitter laugh. Vincent left town. I raised an eyebrow. What? He moved, she said. Took a job out of state, packed his things, and just left. Didn't even tell me, found out through a mutual friend. I let that sink in. So he destroyed 2 marriages and just ran. Yep. We were both silent for a moment, then Leslie sighed. Well, at least we're finally free of them, she said. I smirked. Yeah, we are. And I meant it. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't thinking about Marcy. Or Vincent. Or the past. I was thinking about my future. And for the first time in a long time, it actually looked good. The day the divorce was finalized, I poured myself a glass of whiskey, sat on my back porch, and watched the sunset. 30 years. Gone. But I wasn't sad. I was free. And damn, that felt good.